Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So there are a whole lot of things to talk about in this video. So I would recommend that this is one of those videos that you want to maybe listen to while you're driving or while you're doing something, maybe casual, or maybe, if you just want to kind of like, dive into some of the information as a hardcore division agent and you want to kind of, I would say get some more nuance regarding all of what's going on in the community. I think this video might be able to provide a little bit of insight because a lot of the details I'm going to be talking about are officially sourced details. Now, first of all, I want to go ahead and basically put out a, kind of a disclaimer, and I would say even maybe an apology, because I remember when we started a lot of the discussions about the Division 2's player numbers and sales, I got all the data that I was using for my evidence from pretty much sources that did their best to collect data from the gameplay sales, especially in light of Ubisoft and all these gaming development companies being very secretive. In fact, one of the number sources that I got was actually an API-based source mechanism or whatever you want to call it, that basically uses trophies earned on PlayStation devices to be able to see what games players have played. So a lot was still in the dark, and I remember a lot of those numbers were disputed. In fact, some people claimed that the numbers were actually much less than I was actually proposing them to be. But, fortunately for me, my intuition basically still paid off. And that is the fact that those numbers are actually a lot much more. And the Division 2 has actually been able to achieve a huge feat. When the developers basically made this particular announcement, basically, reaching out to the community saying, hey, this is basically what we're doing. We asked for cadence, and, we just want to say, give us a chance so that we can bring this year 3 game mode or whatever you want to call it late 2021. They went ahead and did kind of a celebratory infographic. For me, this is Christmas in March, because you guys understand and know that I really do enjoy looking at the data, and I wanted to go through just a few pieces of it. The rest we'll probably look at in other videos because I feel it's pertinent. And I think this is also pertinent because this may provide some insight as to what we think or what we believe the developers could sensibly do with a franchise of this magnitude. So if you already look here, they start out with Division 2, 40 million players for the franchise. That's 4 times the population of Sweden. Now, I'm not saying that the Division 2 sold 40 million copies. That would be naive, because there are a lot of free weekends. There are a lot of free copies that were given, or maybe say bundled copies for people who bought GPUs, computer accessories, or people who maybe just got it as a package. Maybe say they were buying a used console from somebody and the person threw in a Division 2 game on there. So, I mean, that one copy has probably represented 2 or maybe 3 players, or maybe one person has multiple accounts that they've played with. This is not something that I'm unaware of. But if we really wanted to say, let's see if we can kind of, derive some sales figures from here, we could take perhaps 10 million of these players and say maybe we can categorize 10 million players as free weekend players, and players that basically did not purchase the game. And if we still leave it at 30 million players, we're still looking at a total of close to $1 billion. So the Division franchise, if you actually put Division 1 and Division 2 together, that's a franchise that has basically grossed over at least $1 billion. If you really wanted to be very conservative, you say just a little bit under $2 billion. Now, when you start looking at these numbers, I don't see any reason why the development team or even Ubisoft themselves would want to do away with this franchise or even shelve it for any reason. It is a moneymaker. In fact, it is actually a huge moneymaker. And I remember, with the earnings call, when we heard that question, remember the very first question after the Ubisoft earnings call that revealed that there was going to be more content in this year and next year. Remember that question was, since you guys are taking on Avatar and Star Wars, what's that going to mean for the Division 2? Are there going to be enough resources? And the executive from Ubisoft basically responded and said, we actually are expecting some content for this year and next year. And Ubisoft basically, works with a lot of other sister studios that also are able to work on the Division game. So when they came up with this particular infographic and said, we actually do have, Ubisoft Bucharest working on this content that we're bringing, for you guys, it made a whole lot of sense. I've made other videos actually showcasing the strength. And when I mean strength, I'm using a military term, the numbers and also the expertise of a lot of these other sister studios that also worked on the Division 2 as well. In fact, some of them worked on the Division 1 and the Division 2. You have to put Red Storm in that mix. Their name is actually on the credits when you fire up the Division 1 for the very first time. Once you level up you're trying to level up your agent and reach the White House, you see Ubisoft Reflections, you see Ubisoft Annecy. Annecy is another studio that is canceled, or one of their games, has basically been postponed. So there's not any information about that. They're the ones who made the Iron Horse Raid, which was actually based, free content that was actually dropped in the game. So there's a lot of ubiquitous, knowledge about the game. I've seen somebody mention that only Massive knows the Snowdrop engine. That's not true. There are experts on the Snowdrop engine far and wide. I could say much more about my knowledge of this, but I will keep it there. I'm just, you got to take my word for it, or, you could dismiss it. That's fine. And so when you think about this, I think that the franchise does have a lot of promise. And I think another thing that many may have interpreted too as Division being a sales flop or Division 2 not succeeding is mainly based on their own perception or their own acceptance of the game. I get it. Nobody wants to see their favorite game as kind of a copycat. A lot of people came into the Division 2 thinking it was going to be a lot like Division 1, and for them, it was a copycat of the first game. I get it. It's just like people are actually judging Outriders right now. Many Destiny players don't seem like they want to play it because to them it feels very Destiny-esque. They don't want to see their favorite game in another in another context that's not their own very well accepted game. But I believe the developers basically went with their own direction and their own window in order to deliver a game like this. So which leads me to actually, try to see if we can answer the question. Now, with 40 million players, I saw this question yesterday. Why would anybody want to actually close down the franchise? What's the reason for this? Is it that they just want to take the bag and, dip out? That could as well be the case. It may be a situation where they want to say, we don't bagged up all this dough, let's bounce. But I don't think that's likely, and I'll tell you the reason why. I think the reason they're trying to move to another franchise, regardless of how solid the Division 2 actually is, I think is because of more of the technical limitations and right now I would say the promise of much more technological advancement probably in the next few months. What I mean is basically a matter of numbers. Given the next few months, if Sony and Microsoft really, dig deep, more and more of these next generation consoles will become available to more and more people. As time goes on, those technology pieces, that's basically what they are, will start to become much more ubiquitous. With the PlayStation 4 and the old Xbox, there are many limitations to a franchise like this and to the dream and vision that most of us will want to see. What are these things? Crossplay and cross saves. I think this is something that has not necessarily been emphasized as much because I believe that even with the 40 million players that you're seeing, if the Division 2 had crossplay and cross saves, there is no doubt that this number would have easily added another, maybe say even 20, 30 or 40% more players because you have that particular cross, transfer of progress and even community-wide, I would say, participation. Because if you think about it, if you try to hit matchmaking on a mission, just imagine being able to matchmake on a mission in the Division game and you're able to just have people for that, that from Xbox, people from PlayStation just jumping on a mission with you. You won't be worried if a bunch of PC players are probably not playing the game at a given point. You will just always realize that you have people to play with. I believe that these aspects of game development are yet to be explored, and Outriders is going to be one of the very first few games that's going to be taking advantage of the cross saves and crossplay, functionality. Now, I get it. Destiny 2 has taken advantage of cross saves as well and crossplay, that's for sure. But I said one of the few. So there aren't a lot of them that are actually going out there on the kind of scale that Destiny and The Division is when it comes to player numbers. So this is actually a very big deal. Now, maybe there are other games out there that are leveraging this, but, maybe those games are in different demographics. If you look at Destiny and Division 2, they appeal to similar demographics of players. And so this is one of the big reasons that I definitely think that they're probably trying to move to this direction. The second thing I believe is, Ubisoft's own pattern of always relaunching and refreshing their IPs and, kind of bringing new things to the table, which are in reality a lot more profitable. I don't believe, nor do I think that the Division 1 had about 40 million players when the game was actually in the end of its life cycle. I mean, you could say that it had some sort of a number. As for those who have said they should have continued with the Division 2, well, maybe that was not the most profitable aspect for them. And so I believe that they decided to move forward to get a new game, build more hype and all of those things to be able to get more people into the franchise. So I think this is basically the exact same thing they're trying to do. They're trying to pivot off of this and move on further. And so this is why I believe, and these are my opinions anyways. I mean, this is yet to be proven anyways. But from what I'm seeing, I believe strongly that this is most likely why they're moving in that direction. Then you also have the question of the lag and the delay. We've thrown out different hypotheses. I think the most safe one is the one that I discussed in my last video, where I talked about the different delays across the industry, not just unique to Ubisoft, but also delays that have affected Warner Brothers, that have affected EA, that has even affected that's even affected People Can Fly, who are the developers behind Outriders. And so thinking about all of these, it provides a little bit more context as to some of the issues that we're seeing. Now, here's another interesting question, though, and I'm going to leave this as a question on this video, and I'm also going to, discuss that in my follow-up video so that I can keep this video short and so that you can basically kind of see this picture that I'm trying to depict. If you look at this infographic, it's on Twitter, go on the Division 2's Twitter page, you're going to see a lot of the different statistics that they put out. I remember Mortal Kombat 11 actually did something as cool as this. It's really interesting, and I'll talk about it later. And I'll ask you and say, what are these numbers indicative of? What kind of activities do these numbers reflect players engaging in so far? And what activity seems to be left out, I would say maybe purposefully or maybe inadvertently from this list? If you answer that question, you'll basically know where my next video is going. And I think you'll probably be able to, if they bring out a Division 3 or talk about it, you'll probably be able to go into that next game with the expectations that are representative of what that game could be. So that's pretty much my own video for now. Thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys so much. Engage me in the comment section. Let me hear your thoughts. Do you really think that they're going to close shop and take the money and dip out? Or do you think they're going to go for another maybe home run? Because it's a home run in my opinion. If you can sell 20 million copies of, candy, or 20 million pieces of candy, sorry, I think you're a successful candy company. How much more a video game for about $60, $30, or maybe $20 a piece for the software? Talk to you all soon. Peace out.